And we're here. It's on. Guys, listen, technology will try you sometimes, but that's the important part of continuing to stay where you are and showing up for the cause. Guys, you have tuned in to Let's Digest, and this is your girl, Deidre Wells, of course. And we have some treats for you guys tonight. If you actually saw, wait a minute, make sure popping up on my screen. If you guys actually saw my flyer, you know that we have a special guest tonight talking about a topic, of course, that we all probably have used, wanting to know the perspectives, right? Of course, this is Let's Digest. But before we get started, before I introduce our special guest, guys, make sure that you hit the subscribe button. Make sure your bell is highlighted so that every time I go on live and come with the juice, you guys will get notification. So let's get into it. Tonight, we have Mr. Gamal Catton. And I don't want to give it away too much because I want him to give you guys the sauce about himself. But when I say amazing man, humbled and very, professional all the time. When I met him, I told him it was something about his stance that just got me. It just sold me. It told me that he was, about his business, but that he's someone that you could trust, and getting to know him and opening up that platform, he's been nothing but transparent and helpful to me, nothing but beneficial, and i.e. vice versa. We gotta pour back into those who pour into us. But I want to highlight him tonight, on here. I know he's going to come on and give his story about himself. But guys, amazing man. If you don't have connections to him, reach out, get connections to him. He serves in other ways and other platforms. So you guys definitely don't want to miss that as well. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce Mr. Gamal Catton. Can you hear us? Can you see us good? So I hear you. Let me see if I brought you on good. Let me make sure that, look, guys, I'm studying some new things so that, remember I told you I was going to upgrade my technology for you guys, and that's exactly what I am trying to do. So here we go.
All right, here I go. There we go. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, everything. I can hear you perfect.
All right, perfect.
Yes.
Thank you for the warm introduction. I appreciate that. That was really really good for those kind words. I really appreciate it. I'm excited to be here.
Well, we thank you
So
for
let's
showing up
digest.
with me tonight.
Yes, I normally sleep around this time.
Yes. Well, we appreciate you showing up and energized for us, because you seem energized for us tonight. So we appreciate you.
No,
So I
no
want you to,
problem.
yeah. So go ahead and let the viewers know a little bit about yourself, what it is that you do, um, even if it's the tip of the iceberg.
Absolutely. Oh, my pleasure. So hey everyone, my name is Gamal Catton. I'm a leadership coach. I'm a mentor. I've been in the sales industry for roughly about 15 years and over 10 years of leadership in the sales industry. Also, I'm an investor. I invest in digital technologies, entrepreneur as well too. Family man, husband, and with 4 kids. So I'm excited to be here, share my wealth of knowledge, and ready to get this party started.
Love it, love it. Definitely don't listen. I think we're learning a new age of definitely living life with ease, because we look good doing it. So I just had to throw that in there, So we're just gonna go ahead and ask you a couple questions. Of course, tonight's title or topic that we'll be digesting tonight is, it's chess, not checkers. I found myself saying it a couple times before, even on broadcast, on my episodes. And literally, when I said it, of course, it was in different terms, different views or topics, shall I say, that I was having at the moment. But it seemed to have fit based upon my perspective of what it means. So I was just going to go ahead and get into it. Have you heard that term before? And if you have, the first time you heard it, what was the conversation like for you?
Yeah, so I've heard that. I've heard that quote before. I'm sure I've heard it on TV the first time, and I've heard as growing up, I've heard it repeatedly. Just I hear people throwing it out there. As a kid, I didn't really understand the that phrase. But what I knew was that I started playing checkers first, and once I heard the quote, and I was like, okay, so that means that we're implying that chess must be greater than checkers. So I decided to learn how to play chess. And interesting, I don't think you know this about me, but I actually played on the chess team when I was in elementary school, a long time ago. I'm not that great at chess, but I do know how to play. I can get around. Some experts will probably, whoop me in the game, but I can get my way around the board.
Right. Listen, I love that. I might be the person to still talk to. I always said, I wanted to learn chess, didn't really get around to actually learning it. I just knew, like you said, the term thrown around, hey, it must be better than checkers. We all played those games in our childhood. So it all depends. So my next question for you, what does that's what it was for you, you seeming beforehand, it was because you had experienced checkers before, that it must be that this game is somehow different, somehow better, and maybe it's challenges. So after getting experience in both checkers and chess, what does that quote mean to you? Have you applied it to any particular area of your life, or how is your perspective now?
Yeah, absolutely. So, checkers is a game. It's a family game that can easily be introduced to anyone, even readily at a very young age. Right? I think you can do so with chess a little bit, but it requires a little bit more patience. So, I would say that checkers is a little bit more of a simplistic game to play, where chess has a little bit more complexities. Right? It requires you to think a little bit more. So, like really diving into that with checkers, if you make a move, I'm going to make a move, right? So it's very reactive, and sometimes very impulsive as well too, right? With chess, on the other hand, you have to think. You may have strategy. You may have certain plays that you may already come to the game with. You may be thinking 3 steps ahead of the player, your opponent, and sometimes you don't have to worry about what they do if you're really focused on your route and you know exactly what moves you need to make to win the game. Right. So it's two different games, and chess is just a little bit more complex than checkers.
Ooh, listen, that was all the information our viewers need to know tonight. If they're paying attention, you literally just gave them so many important, and for me, my version of it, you gave them so many important details about a game, about what initially started as a board game. However, if you imply that, or you apply that to life itself, can we say life is not a game, but life is definitely a journey. There's a goal at hand, and man, the things you said were powerful. Listen, you have to be more strategic, and I think that's my perspective as well when it comes to chess, although I haven't experienced it like that. It seems to be a more mature game. It seems to be a game where there's rational thinking versus irrational, and kind of just all over the place with checkers, because you can make a little extra thing, like you say, one makes a move, the other makes a move. And I'll tell anybody now, just because somebody make a move, you might want to think before you make your next move. You could make the wrong move. That was powerful. I love the entire statement. The fact that, again, we're digesting things, and as we may see, that was a very simple way to put board games and apply them to different things, which brings me to my next question. If you had to choose one aspect of life with everything that you just said about chess versus checkers, what would you apply it to, or what would you have someone else apply that to? If you're trying to give them some pointers in a particular area of their life, how would or you would use that quote in that aspect, what would it be?
If I had to compare it to life, right?
Mhm.
I'll just take a look at my life in general. I would probably say chess would be comparative to my early years of being a teenager, adulthood, a lot of impulsive decisions, right? And there's you have people there that may have showed you just a little bit but you don't have that mentor, that person to like really show you the wisdom. When you play chess, you start to get into like communities, and you start to meet people who are thinking on a different level. And there's always somebody that can teach you something completely different. Like people have to really hold your hand and teach you some things with chess, right? Where checkers is like, all right, here's how you play the game. And sometimes you can just go on your own and you can make some really bad decisions, right? So you can kind of compare it to like, maybe a younger self for some people who are impulsive versus when you're older, just making strategic decisions, being around the right people, having mentors, somebody to coach you, somebody that has wisdom. So that's how I would compare it to life, my life in particular.
I love that. And it's funny that you say that. Every time I have actually seen someone, even if it's on a movie or someone talk about it, I've heard a couple of people talk about it when I was in college before, and it seems that they always find someone, like it's always someone that they either look up to, or like you said, a mentor. It's someone that they actually go study the game with, sit, learn the game from. Like you say, versus we were given a board game called checkers way back when, and it was just everybody get, you get your red color, I get my black color, we're just gonna fill in the squares. I think that's what we started doing. We just started filling the squares. Versus, chess, you got to have that, and you need that mentorship. You need that guidance, and you can't be so quick to think that it's something, because it could not be. The rules are completely different. From my understanding, from the things that I've actually looked up and seen. It is very interesting to me. Even when I say it now, that it always pertains to life somehow for me. And maybe because, that was my perspective or my take on it, that, chess, kind of sitting at the grown-ups table, when you transfer from sitting with the kids to the adults. And it's something that you mature your way into. And it makes you learn a lot more about yourself. And for me, saying that, it sounded good initially when I said it. I mean, of course it said, it's chess, not checkers. But it reminds me of what game I want to be a part of, how I actually want to apply it to my life. Means I got to actually get myself on a chessboard and learn it some more. But I've actually seen it. I haven't played the game, but I've been around leaders. I've been around mentors, who've given me tools that I can apply. And when I apply them, it helps me to make my next move, whether it be in business, whether it be in personal, because, even for me, learning business is new for me with business. I'm learning that it teaches you a lot about your personal self. And so you have to, you have to get that study on a bit, shall I say. Outside of that, I guess,
I can add something else to it.
Yes.
So if you're talking about business, I just thought about this, right? So one thing that, if you know me, I don't often go with the crowd. Right. So I look at what everybody else is doing, and I'm like, I may try it, but it doesn't feel natural. So I always end up doing something different. Right.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things that Dame Dash always said, he said that I thought was really good. He said, you see everybody doing the same thing, you want to do something different. Don't hustle on a crowded block. Right. So one thing you want to think about is, if we're looking at checkers, right? With it being a little bit more simple as it relates to business, a lot of people want to play, they take the safe route. They do things that are simple. I can tell you that there's not too many people that you will find sometimes in certain circles that know how to play chess. And if you had to compare it to entrepreneurship, some people want to play chess, but they're afraid of the learning curve, and they won't even take the risk, right? There's some people that will probably be phenomenal chess players or phenomenal people in business, but they are afraid to take that risk and leap into entrepreneurship. So I think that's another comparison, is just the complexity of the game, or even the complexity of learning how to start a small business or getting into business keeps people away from even getting started.
Absolutely. Do want to stay in that safe space and check this. Listen, when I first got into business, I'm like, don't think I want to make that move. Do I really? Am I in this? And even with that, if you're not careful, I literally just heard earlier that sometimes if we're not careful, we'll treat our dreams as a joke, or we'll treat it as a hobby, shall we say. And if you're not careful, sometimes you see the things when it comes to business and it's shiny, it looks good. You wonder if that's, and you kind of jump in because maybe the person that you're looking at or the people are giving you a different perspective, or you're just seeing what it is that you want to see from the outside. Once you get in, you realize it is definitely not checkers. It is not checkers. You have to grow up. You have to be mature. You really do. And how far you go determines whether or not you went back to that safe space or you stayed and played the game, learned the game, and then played appropriately. So I definitely like that. I think my aspect, even when it comes to relationships, you're a husband, so you had you guys had relationships and then you got married. So for me, I even think about that when it comes to relationships, whether it be boyfriend, whether it be friends, whether it be your family. I really apply it to the same things, whether or not I'm going to. We all change, and in relationships, we have to be able to communicate the change. Sometimes we don't do so well with that. It's like kicking and streaming. You get me, you get me. You don't, you don't. And that's the checkers mindset to me. But when it comes to actually wanting a lasting relationship, regardless on the dynamics of it, you want to be mature about it. You want to actually learn not just yourself, because you're changing all the time. You take the time to make sure that you learn the other person, because this is two different lives or souls being intertwined in whatever way it's being intertwined. So you can't just make all kind of moves. You can't say, hey, I'm gonna do this or I'm gonna do that, not considering the persons or the people who are involved, and also making sure that you're being fair to yourself. Not just, hey, I did that for them, now I'm gonna do this for me, and vice versa, and we're just gonna go that way. So that was one of the things when I was thinking about the topic as well. I applied it to relationships. I don't know how you feel about that one.
Yeah, absolutely. It goes back to like what we talked about. You were talking about in a relationship from the communication standpoint, there's time periods where we can be very assumptive, like where you may be feeling some type of way, or there's something that you're thinking and you feel like the other party should just pick up on how you're feeling. Right. That's assumptive, right?
Mm-hmm.
You want to be understood, but you're not communicating anything at all. Right. And then the other portion of it is just communicating, letting people know, how you're feeling, so you can set clear expectations and they understand where you're at, what you're going through, where you want to go, all of those things. So that's like the differences. And I just wrote it down when you were talking. I think everybody wants to be understood, but we also need to make sure that we're understanding as well too. And you can only do that by communicating. So I think communication is super important. I know we're kind of going away from the checkers.
Listen, I don't know. There has to be communication in chess. I know there is, it's some kind. Not all communication is physical, but well, did I say that right, lingo? But I love the conversations. We love it over here, but I'm enjoying the quote. I think I'll use it more strategically even now, after this conversation tonight, because it was a lot to digest. Not a lot to digest. It was fulfilling to digest that. I know I've heard it, like you said, you've heard it since growing up, and I've heard people say it all the time. I don't know what their perspective was. Sometimes the conversation is what it is and different things. But as I'm growing, I'm learning what it means. Even when I looked it up, the successful people who said it, i.e., I think it originally came from Denzel Washington in Training Day when he said it. This checkers, it's chess, not checkers. And of course, he was talking to his partner, and it was just, you got to know how to play what's in your hand, per se. and you got to know that there's different routes and different levels to what you're aiming for. Now, hopefully, it's not training day and everybody is doing good things out there in life. But that was one of the things that just had me just so puzzled about this, and just wanted to digest that and get that out to our viewers. I don't know if you have anything. Yeah.
So I heard something interesting. This is the first time I've heard this. I want to heard it in the past year. I'm always listening to like YouTube content. I think I heard it on the Math Hoffa podcast, but somebody said something very interesting. So they were talking about the when people say life is chess, it's not checkers. He had his own point of view where he was debunking life being like chess. And it was a different point of view that I didn't hear before. And I thought it was one that really made you ponder. He was saying that when you're playing chess, you actually get a chance to see the entire board, right? Like you get to see the board in advance. So you know exactly where you're going to go, right? And he was saying that in life, you really don't get to see the whole board. Right. So he said, so he had his own take on those comparisons. Now, if you're someone that understands vision, very well, and you're a person of faith, your visions, you may be able to see, your board or your next move in your visions. Right. But the reality is that life has so many curveballs, right? That, you got to be able to make some decisions sometimes on the fly. So, he was just throwing a different perspective into it. Nonetheless, I would say you do still, the similarities in chess, sometimes it's that of patience. You got to have patience, and you got to, you can't be rattled by something that somebody else does. You can't be rattled, and you still want to try to make the best decisions under tough situations or even under pressure. If you notice some of those professional games, they'll have like the timer on there. All right. So somebody can really, put a really nice move on you that you wasn't expecting. Now you have a timer in front of you, and you got to be able to respond to that in a timely fashion. But it has to be a really good calculated decision so that you can either get back in the game or get out of a situation. So those are some of the things that I love about the game of chess. Is just really makes you want to think. And then you have the utmost respect for the people who play the game well. All right. So one thing about chess is that I don't go into every match like knowing my skill set where I'm at. I know that I could lose to somebody. All right. And then once I lose from that person, I'm want to learn how they beat me. All right. So there's some lessons, especially from a business standpoint. If you're not getting to where you're going and you're around people who are a little bit more advanced than you, those connections can help you learn what steps you can take next. So, a lot of gems, life gems in this.
Lots of gems. Listen, I literally just saw a quote, and I can't, just because after you said that, I cannot remember who said it, but he was it's literally a quote. Basically, like you said, it's chess, but you have to know how to lose and still. It was either lose and still learn from it, or know how to lose yet still win, or something like that. But he mentioned that. That was interesting to say that. I like that. I love the different perspectives. Definitely something to make me go think of some more and ponder on. I love it. But I thank you. I don't know if you have anything else for us. We don't want to keep you on too long. We know that the time is winding down. But before you go, and so the guests can hear us, let us know if you'll be coming back. We can look forward to seeing you again.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I've been joining podcasts, and I've been enjoying them so far. Normally somebody invite me to a podcast in the past. I'll try to make up an excuse. I wasn't prepared, but I told myself in 2023, somebody invite me to something, I'm just going to do it. I'm not going to think about it. I'm just going to do it. Overcome any of those fears or any feelings of being uncomfortable. So I'm here. So if you got something else for me, let me know.
Now that sounded like a chess move to me. I don't know. Guys, I hope you have been listening tonight. I hope you have been tuned in, getting all these gems of perspectives, so that the next time you come across this quote or you hear it, you'll know the different perspectives of it, and maybe even how to apply it to your life, which is the main reason why we're coming here, so that you guys can have different perspectives where you can see things a little bit clearer or from a fresh point of view, and then digest it softly, easily. Guys, it has been real as always. Guys, make sure that you're blessed, make sure that you love on each other, and we will see you the next time. Night.
All right. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.